Alright, yo, what is up, you guys? Alright, so in this video, we will be doing a $500 PC, gaming PC build, and I just want to say right after that, I'm impressed by the performance you can get by this PC. Um, you will be playing a lot of titles at 1080p at 60 frames per second or higher if you want to play games like League of Legends, CS:GO, Overwatch, those kinds of games. Um, okay, so anyway, kicking things off with the CPU, we have the Ryzen 5 1400 2.2 sorry, 3.2 gigahertz. It's a quad core with hyperthreading, so it has 4 cores and 8 threads. Um, and due to our $500 budget, we can only we have to use this hot stock heatsink. Unfortunately, if I went with another heatsink, it would I would have to compromise in some other components. Um, okay, anyway, moving on with the motherboard, we went with the Gigabyte B450M uh, DS3H Micro ATX AM4 motherboard. So basically, this has, as you can see, um, I really like this board. It has 4 RAM slots. It supports up to 64 gigabytes of RAM if you want to do that. No Crossfire SLI if you were looking to do that, but you know, at this budget, why would you want to do that? Um, and yeah, basically it supports the AMD Ryzen chipsets, so even when the 3rd generation chipsets come out, you can still use it on this motherboard. And then there is support for M.2 SSDs if you want that. Yeah, that's about it for the motherboard. Um, anyway, for the RAM, we went with 8 GB 240 DIMMs running at 3000 megahertz. With Ryzen, it is really important that you get overclocked RAM because it will easily take advantage of the RAM. Now, you know, I have been saying, you know, for AAA titles, you want 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that is true, but since this RAM is at such a high clock speed, and with the other more budget-oriented components, it would be nice to have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but unfortunately, I just couldn't really put it in the budget. So if you have a little bit of extra money, then I would say, um, one of the upgrades I would do is upgrade the RAM. Um, I made sure to get a good CPU so you wouldn't have to upgrade the CPU in a while, for a while. So like the CPU is really good. That's like what I was trying to go for. So you wouldn't have to upgrade the CPU because that's a pain. Um, so that is sort of why we couldn't really fit in 16 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, anyway, moving on with the SSD, or the storage, we went with the 240 gigabyte 2.5-inch solid state drive. It's not NVMe, but you know, at this budget, can't really fit that in without compromises. So yeah, basically, due to the budget, I can only fit in 250 240, sorry, gigabytes of storage. But if you had a bit of extra money and like you don't think that's enough for you, maybe upgrade that. If you're saying, well, why, like, could I just get a hard drive? Well, no, not really for gaming. That's like if you just do web browsing, I guess, but gaming is it's just hard drives are just too slow for gaming. They didn't used to be, but unfortunately now they are. Okay. Anyway, so moving on to the graphics card, we have the Radeon RX 570. Now, this card is a great, it's a great performer. I know Nvidia hasn't released their budget cards yet. Um, so, um, this is a great one. You cannot use an Nvidia Shadow Play, so if you really want to use that, then you would have to go with something like the GTX 1050 Ti, but that is just half as much performance. And if you can get over not having Nvidia Shadow Play, then I just really recommend that you go with the 570. It is 4 GB, so you would have to lower some textures in more demanding games. But yeah. Okay. Moving on, we have the Corsair Spec 04 mid tower case. So, as you can see here, there is quite a bit of room. You know, for a budget build, this is a really good case for a budget build, as you can see. Plenty of room for your components. Red RGB lighting. USB 3 header, USB 2. So, you know, there's some ports on there. Nice. $40 case, great. Okay, so for the power supply, now with power supplies, people tend to either overspend or underspend, but this power supply is a 450 watt bronze unit, with sleeved cables. As you can see, it is not fully modular, but you know, at this budget, you should spend the money on other things. Like the GPU and the CPU. Okay. Okay, anyway, so that was the spec list. Now for the performance. For this PC, you can expect to play games such as, like, more demanding games like, Far Cry 5, The Witcher 3, Battlefield 5, there's no ray tracing, of course. The Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, those types of games. Like, more, you might have to lower the settings a little bit, like, to, like, medium when things, like, really get, like, more demanding. For video editing, I would recommend that you get 16 gigabytes of RAM, because video editing on 8 gigabytes of RAM is just really hard. But luckily, the CPU I did pick for this build can, since it is 4 cores, 8 threads, it can do video editing. Same with the GPU, it also can. So yeah, that's, and then with, like, lower demanding games like League of Legends, CSGO, Overwatch, Dota 2, those types of games, can be played sometimes 1080p Ultra and still getting that 60 frames per second. So, you know, just for the budget, great performance. That's basically it for this PC build. Comment what budget you want to see next, and I will see you all in the next video, and peace.